Okay, so now I'll show you how to set it up, how to set the origin rig setup on a very simple joint chain. So I'll make 3 joints. This is my shoulder joint. This is elbow joint, and the last one, wrist joint. And I'll create PN locators. Shoulder PN. Now I'll feed the world matrix of the shoulder PN to the shoulder joint. It goes into the offset parent matrix, and once you add values in your offset parent matrix, you have to zero out these values. Also, your joint orientation, it has to be 0. Now I'll feed the world matrix of the elbow PN to the elbow joint, and you'll see the problem that I talked about earlier. So even if I zero it out, it won't take the position of the elbow PN. So the way to fix it is that you have to multiply the world inverse matrix of the locator of its parent with this locator. So let's do that. So we have elbow PN, and the parent of this elbow joint is shoulder joint, so we require its PN as well. So I'm adding that. Okay, so shoulder PN, elbow PN. Create the world matrix node. The world matrix goes into the index 0 of the world matrix, and the world inverse matrix of the parent joint's PN node goes into the index 1. And now if I feed this to the offset parent matrix of the elbow joint, it will snap to the correct location. There you see. Same with this one. Now this will go into the wrist joint. But now you can see that even though this is the origin setup at its very basic level, but you still need to set your joints so that they orient in a proper way. Right now they are not orienting the way they are supposed to. So your shoulder joint has to look down your elbow joint, and the elbow joint has to point in the direction of the wrist joint. So we can set that up again using the PN nodes. So first I'll create a locator that will be your pole vector locator. Let's call it arm PV PN, pole vector PN. Now let's add the, let me make the local transformation, local rotation axis visible so that you can see it as I'm setting it up. So this constraint aim vector will be 1 and arm PVP, yeah. So now its x-axis is pointing to the elbow joint. Similar for the elbow joint. Done. So now you can move the joint, and when you move it, the joint will orient itself in a correct way. And suppose this is your arm setup, and when you rotate it in this axis, you see that it's not in a perfect plane, which is wrong. So all you have to do is set up your either the pole vector locator or position your elbow pin correctly so that your arm rotation is in perfect plane. So these are the kind of things that you can do with the origin setup. And in my video I've gone ahead and explained all the benefits of rigging with this thing, this system. So suppose if you have IK control, you can now just feed the wrist PN to the IK handles of the parametrics. And zero out the values. Let me So now I'm actually moving, the IK handle is moving with this wrist PN, but since this is the rest pose, it's not doing much. And even though it has the IK, you can still go ahead and change the joint position of the intermediate joint. You can even move it somewhere. IK handle is there, and if you decide to change the elbow position, you can do that. You also need to have the control system. So let me create a circle. Since the joints are pointing down the x-axis, so I'm creating a circle that's facing in the x-axis. Delete history, freeze transform, shoulder, world matrix of the shoulder PN goes into the offset parametrics of the shoulder control. Okay. But now if I parent this joint under this control, you will see a problem that when I move this control, the joint will double deform. Oh, sorry, when I move this locator, we get this problem. And the way to fix it is, again, go back to your node editor, your shoulder PN, and let me bring in the controller. So now I'm going to add the merge matrix. So the shoulder PN's world matrix goes into the index 0 of the mult matrix. Okay, and then you have to grab the values of the offset parent matrix that are there in your controller and then inverse it. So let's create the inverse matrix and feed the offset parent matrix into the input matrix. Yeah, and this will go into the index 1, and now this we feed to the offset parent matrix of the shoulder joint, so that will take care of the issue. Yeah, zero out these values and you are done. See, and now if I use this control to move this hierarchy, you can do that. This is in the pose and you can change the joint position. But as you saw, setting up is a bit tedious, and therefore I have a solution which I want to propose to the developers of Maya. I mean, I was trying to do that when I was setting up my node in C++, but the limitation of Maya API, I think I read it somewhere that in Maya API, if you're creating a node, then the only data you should get in that node should be coming in from the input connection. You should not be fetching data from its parent or some other objects which is in the hierarchy. So I think that was the limitation why I could not set that up in my C++ node. But I'll explain what I'm trying to say to Maya developers and how, if they could set it up what I'm suggesting, it will be very helpful to set up the origin bridge system.